Buddy, this is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose, and I have good news and I have bad news here for you today. The good news is I'm here. I'm here. I went this weekend to celebrate my grandmother's 75th birthday. She's extremely, lively, and I'm so proud to call her my grandmother, and I'm very happy that I got the opportunity to see her and spend some time with her. Haven't seen her in a while. And, we went to Maryland by car. That is 10 hours away. We drove all the way there. And last night we left, we drove. First off, I was the MC for the birthday celebration. And I have to tell you, that's not really my gig. Okay, but you know what? My family's like, you're on the radio. You can do this. So go do it. And I didn't have a choice. I was not consulted in any way. When I was finally consulted, I said no, thus proving that I didn't have a choice because I did it anyway. To me, I don't see how the two jobs are related. Like, one is like, oh yeah, you're talking in front of people. Continue talking in front of people. You're totally good at that. So I did that. The event was good, either because of or despite me. I'm not entirely certain which, but I didn't get a chance to prepare because I've been driving all day, literally since the sun came up. My brother drove the first bit there, and then I drove the end. And from 6 o'clock to now, I just got off the road moments ago. I haven't prepped for my show, which means I don't have the 5 takeaways from NFL and from college this weekend at all. So I'm just going to talk about things that I know that happened. I didn't get an opportunity to prepare for anything. I have no stats. So I'm gonna go from the top here. Not gonna be a totally rough show. I mean, I'm a professional, right? So I think the big story that people have been talking about is Steve Sarkisian, who we've talked about on this show numerous times and launched several conversations about leadership from that topic. He's been dismissed from the University of Southern California as their head coach. The reasons why have not been named yet, but athletic director Pat Hayden has relieved the coach of his duties temporarily, or indefinitely, I should say. Relieved him of his duties indefinitely. And Sarkisian, of course, if you don't recall, he was involved in an incident earlier this year in which he went to the boosters meeting where the boosters who supply money for the football team and the sports programs, they all get together and it's the Hail Troy boosters meeting. And, just get them all hyped up for the football season. Like your money didn't go to nowhere. You just go into a good team, USC pride, go Trojans, go, et cetera, et cetera. And he shows up to this thing drunk, completely hammered, entirely wasted. And, it was kind of funny when the story broke. You heard him drunkenly saying various things, and you're just like, I can't believe that he's really drunk. And, he was saying things about Washington University and on all the other Pac-12 schools, Arizona. And he was swearing, and there were children there, and there were elderly people there, and it didn't look good, and the team didn't really punish him. And I thought that was wrong, of course, because if it had been a student, he would have been suspended. He would have been, you wouldn't fine a college student, but he would have been suspended for some amount of time. And Sarkisian was not suspended, didn't miss any games up until this point. And it's interesting that this has come back again. I don't know what they've relieved him for. And during the break, as I attempt to hastily prep some more, I'll get the extra details on that. But it seemed like a risk at the time. The athletic director basically had to double down on hiring Steve Sarkisian. And he's a young coach, an up and coming coach, smart guy, from what I understand, a great football mind. But this is terrible leadership. This is absolutely horrible leadership. That you wouldn't expect a student to do that. And the thing is, the students for as many times as you can say this, are not paid. The students don't get paid. He does get paid, making him the professional. The NCAA will say over and over again, the students don't get paid because they're amateurs. They're amateurs. But yet if a student had done this, I believe they would have been suspended for some amount of time. Steve Sarkisian had not been and was not. And when he was at the University of Washington as a coordinator, he spent a lot of money on vodka and tequila shots one night. The interesting thing to note is that it was the school's money. If it was his money, he could buy as much vodka as he wants, I guess. I mean, I still wouldn't recommend that. It's terrible for you. But, if that's what you want out of your life, then go ahead. If it's your money, but you can't spend the school's money on your own alcohol consumption, that's wrong. Again, for many reasons, but for the sole reason, at least the drum that I like to beat, is the fairness reason, which is that a student doesn't have the same opportunity to do that. He put it all under the tab of Washington and walked away, just cleaned his hands just like that. And I'm like, is this for real? Like, we didn't hear anything about that story. We didn't hear about that story until the boosters meeting at USC. And now they've had to relieve him. He's been suspended indefinitely. And it's gross. It's gross to me because he's in a position where he needs his team to trust him. And he got the team to buy in a little bit. He asked the players to punish him. It was kind of cutesy, a little too cutesy for me, but at least he did something about it. He addressed it with the team. He did drills for the team until they felt satisfied that he had repaid for what he had done as a representative and leader of the team. And I mean, apparently it didn't mean too much. And look, if Steve Sarkisian is an alcoholic, and I say that an if, because I'm not going to speculate until there's more details and until basically he admits it out loud. But if he is an alcoholic, then that's not something to take lightly. I'm not going to sit here and make fun of the man. Like we talked about earlier, CC Sabathia with the New York Yankees, he had gone into rehab before the Yankees playoffs started for alcoholism. Okay, and it's a serious thing. If you have an addiction and you choose to seek help, okay, then that's not a laughing matter. In fact, even if you don't choose to seek help, it's still not a laughing matter. You should try and seek help. Not everybody gets to rock bottom fast enough to do that. Addiction is real, and a lot of times when a person is addicted to something, either the substance or the lack of the substance is the thing that controls them the most. Yes, they're still responsible for their actions, but they have a lot less control than you or I do, and that's why they need help to get themselves off of this substance, whether that be alcohol or anything else. You can depend on a lot of things. People are addicted to food, sugar, video games. There's lots of things you can be addicted to. So this is not restricted just to alcohol and drug abuse. But those are the things that obviously get the most headlines. And when you're a coach, you're leading a team, you've got to make sure that you're right. You've got to make sure that you're right. You can't make all the best decisions that you can make when you're drunk. You can't. And I know there are people out there that drink a lot. I have friends that drink a lot that'll tell me, "Oh, I'm basically the same drunk. I just have one random thing that I do." Like, no, dude, you're not the same. You're not the same. Don't tell me that. Now, if you want to go ahead and be drunk, that's one thing. But don't tell me that you're the same. You aren't. You aren't. And if you're constantly drunk, then you're not qualified to lead anybody. And I don't care how good of a football mind Steve Sarkisian has. He's not qualified to lead anybody. He just isn't. And it's an incredibly sad story. It's one where, you want to call for blood, you want to say this, that, and the other thing. And didn't the team get rid of alcohol in the locker rooms? And why is he still drinking? Well, if he's addicted, then you know what? He can't help it. And he's going to need time to detox and get all of that stuff out of his system first. And then work on himself so that this doesn't happen again before he can be expected to coach a team. Especially when it comes to leading young men. Because you're not leading a bunch of guys that get paychecks and go home to their families. These are a bunch of kids, which means they need to learn self-control also. They need to learn how not to fall into the same holes of addiction. And if that lesson is learned by you getting yourself right and you getting yourself straight, then that's what you have to do. And the team shouldn't have to do it for you. The team shouldn't have to dismiss you. And it's going to be a long climb back up to the top because Steve Sarkisian really was a promising coach. And if USC decides to fire him, to not bring him back, that's going to be a long climb back to the top for him. And I would wish him the best. I hope that he does get it together, not just for the kids at USC, but for himself. For himself. And I see that with a lot of players and coaches that have had to go through this. More recently, before that was Johnny Manziel. It was just nice to see Johnny. Johnny checked himself into rehab. I don't know what moment caused that for him, what got him to that point. But once he had done that, he took care of it this offseason. He came back. He sounds like a different guy. He sounds like a more serious guy, like he's got his head on straight. And maybe it's all a show. Maybe it's all an act, but maybe it's not. And maybe Johnny Manziel got right. It's possible. And I'm the more optimistic sort. I'd like to believe that Johnny Manziel got himself right. And there's hope for not just him, but for anybody who's dealing with this. I can't stress this enough. I don't care if you have to Google it. You know what? Search it on Bing. Nobody even uses Bing. Search it on Bing. I don't even care. But if this is something that you are struggling with, or something that a loved one struggles with, addiction, alcohol, or otherwise, go get yourself straight. Get yourself straight. I mean, it's the most serious way that we could have started this show, but it's an important message, and I really, really hope that I was heard on that. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You can find us in a number of different ways on Facebook and on YouTube and Twitter. You search Hot News Talk Radio. We are the first thing that comes up. Interact with us on Facebook and Twitter. I have Facebook open right now. Did I put up the pics from last week like I said I would? No, I did not, because I was on the road. But this week, when Mr. Judd and I go down our picks, and I'm going to go over some of those picks because I'd like to talk about them. And I'm sure you'd like to talk about them too. Texas won for me. Tennessee won for some people around here, and Georgia lost for some. So that's going to be interesting. We will discuss. We will break it down. What else happened over the weekend? The Cowboys lost. Got stomped by the Patriots. If you heard the game right here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, I tuned in for a little bit because nothing makes me happier than the Cowboys losing. I'm not sure if that's the right mindset to have as a sports fan. Not even as a sports fan, just as a human being in life. That you can gain some pleasure from the suffering of another person. But the suffering of Cowboys fans is no sweat off of my brow. I am happy. Anytime that happens. Okay, guys? Lose anytime. Seriously. And we've got a story about Matt Barnes and Derek Fisher and some spouse drama and one former NBA player and one older NBA player having a war of words. It's just there's a few things to talk about, and we've got that and more right around the corner. I'm gonna tell you though, anytime the Longhorns beat the Sooners, and I know that this is just a random side tangent. Let me get it off my chest here. It's gonna take like 20 seconds. The Longhorns beat the Sooners this week, and I am so happy. I don't care if they lose for the rest of the year. You win the Red River Shootout, And me and any other Longhorn fan, Longhorn Nation is so pleased. But I can't even imagine how elated Tennessee must be to have beaten the Bulldogs, but also a little bittersweet, right? Because this Vols team is a few points away from having a much better record than they do, and it must be frustrating to say that if you had the talent to beat Georgia, you could have beaten Florida, you could have beaten Oklahoma, and you didn't handle business, and that's entirely frustrating. This is Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
This is America Now with Meghan McCain.
Al Gore running is crazy. You're flying around in your private jet all over the world, and you want average Americans to care about the environment. Don't you think you should be doing your part as well?
Meghan McCain, weekdays at 7 p.m.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave a sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
That smells so good. Smells like a big Italian dinner. But you're going to walk out with two. Buy one hot pizza, get a one for free. Two pizzas. You got the two for the price of one at Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. My favorite Italian restaurant of all the time. Now, I'm living in Hicks, and I go to Raphael's right down the street in Hicks and Pike, right near Highland Plaza. You're in Saudi Daisy? At Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria in Saudi Daisy. Just next to Saudi Daisy Church of God. Hey, you're on Signal Mountain. There's a Raphael's Italian Restaurant and a Pizzeria. It's right on the main drag. You're going to love the pasta, the pizza. Buy one hot pizza, get a one for free. Two pizzas. You got the two for the price of one at Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Tastes so good. Bring the whole family. Come on, Raphael's Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Mangia. Salute.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. Did you know that a quarter of the world's population will experience mental illness? My guest this week is former Congressman Patrick Kennedy, who says the United Nations must make mental illness a priority. Find out why this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report, right here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
So I was reading during the break about Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, if you don't know already, you haven't been watching college football, I don't know what to tell you. Start watching Leonard Fournette. He's going to be amazing. He's going to be a star. And he's incredible. He runs through people like they're made out of paper. And he should be in the NFL. And he can't go to the NFL because of silly rules that are in place that don't allow him to go. But that's not what I want to talk about. At least not those silly rules. Not the silly rules that say that he's got to be out of high school for 3 years before he can play professional football, even though he already has the demeanor and body of a professional because he's huge. Okay, like there's not a real reason that he's just enormous. When you watch him run through people, it's like there are going to be NFL players who have trouble stopping whatever it is that Leonard Fournette is. It's not human, man. That's a machine, okay? Whatever it is that Leonard Fournette is, that should be in the NFL. That should be in the NFL. And if not that, then he should at least be compensated for what he's doing in some way, because it's amazing. Okay, it's fun to watch every single week. And the interesting thing about this is that Leonard Fournette, the LSU Tigers played the South Carolina Gamecocks this past Saturday, and they played in LSU because South Carolina had the flooding, and Leonard Fournette had an amazing game, wanted to auction off his game-worn jersey for charity to help the South Carolina flood victims. Okay? And I feel like you know where I'm going with this. Leonard Fournette, who cannot sell his own game-worn jersey to make money for himself, said that he wanted to auction off his game-worn jersey to make money for flood victims. But what this means is that Leonard Fournette can make money for somebody else, but he can't make money for himself, which again is a crime. Basically, he has a value and he has no access to that value, but everyone else around him does. If he wants to donate to a charity, he can do that. But the coaches are making money from his performances. The athletic directors are making money. The TV networks are making money. The only person in this equation not allowed to make money is Leonard Fournette. And if you, like, this is not even about paying college athletes. This isn't about paying college athletes. This is about Leonard Fournette's own action that could get him paid by somebody he can't do. According to the rules of the NC2A, he is not allowed to sell memorabilia for money. His own. If he sold his own jersey, helmet, that's an infraction, and he's not allowed to do it. Unless, and the rules, the exceptions to the rule, of course, have been shaky and not at all nailed down by the NCAA. It's vague, just how they like it. Then he's in trouble. If he makes the money for himself, he's in trouble. The same money, which is insane. It is insane, and it's an inconsistency in the rules. It's an inconsistency in the rules. And also it points out another hypocritical thing about the NCAA, which is this, that the NCAA will sell generic jerseys. Leonard Fournette wears a number 7 jersey. They'll just sell the LSU 7 jersey, which means that Leonard Fournette's name and likeness is not technically being used. And so they can make money off of him without really making money off of him. Except everybody knows, it's not like a secret, that number 7 of LSU is Leonard Fournette. And the only reason I would want a number 7 jersey is because it's like Leonard Fournette's. If I'm a kid watching college football, and I was a kid watching college football once, I was a Texas Longhorns fan, and I loved watching Vince Young. And I wanted a Texas number 10 jersey. It didn't say Young on the back, but I only wanted number 10 because Vince Young wore 10, which tells you that his value to the team is worth something because of who he is, that he has an inherent value to the team that a replacement player wearing number 7 isn't going to have. And he only has it because he's Leonard Fournette. In my case, Vince Young only had it because he's Vince Young. He did things that nobody else could do, and he wasn't allowed to be paid for it. Leonard Fournette can do things that people can't do what he's doing in college. That's insane. He's Mario jumping people and just squashing them. People can't just do what he's doing. And he can't get paid for it. He can't get compensated for it in any way. The school's not allowed to pay him, but even if you were totally okay with that, he can't get himself paid. That doesn't make any sense at all. But through the same process, he can make money for a charity, but he can't get himself paid. Doesn't make any sense. It's two-faced and hypocritical, but the NCAA has made the rules that they can kind of interpret it however they want to. And they know for a fact that if they had said that he couldn't sell the jersey for charity, there'd have been people knocking on their door today. The NCAA offices in Indianapolis. They would have been there at Mark Emmert's door in a mob. The NCAA made the right public relations decision, but they continue to make the incorrect moral decision by allowing athletes who have the ability to make money off of the services that they create. They can't make money off of it. That doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense. I can't believe it. Cannot believe it. It's exploitation at its finest. I mean, the NCAA has refined the art of exploitation, not just with regards to who is exploited, but for what they do, for what those guys do. It is incredible. It is incredible that they get away with what they're getting away with in the NCAA. That a person is out there breaking themselves, sweat, blood, tears. They play through pain. Some places, some schools allow athletes to take medication so they can get back out there on the field and play. But I mean, you're not getting paid to do it. Those injuries, the pain is your body's way of saying, stop doing that. This hurts. And you're telling a person that you are not paying to continue to hurt themselves and to ignore their body and what it's trying to say. Crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And it's morally reprehensible. Like, I feel like every time I am forced to think about this, that this issue comes to the forefront, and I am forced to confront college football and the act of not paying players, which is loathsome. It makes me feel a little dirty watching college football. Again, as with the concussion issues, not dirty enough to actually stop watching football, but dirty enough to just go, ugh, I need to take a shower after. Because this is weird. It's definitely strange. Like, when you think about it at its core. That is unreal to me. But before we get any further, Tennessee beats Georgia. And I have to talk about this because our coverage area is right in the middle of a Tennessee-Georgia line here. And look, it's to me, it's cool because it's a great rivalry for the people in this area specifically. If you get closer to Knoxville, you're up in Knoxville, beating Georgia doesn't mean as much to you. It means a lot, but it doesn't mean as much to you. If you're all the way at Athens, beating Tennessee means a lot, but it doesn't mean as much to you. You know what I mean? But you live in Dalton, you live in Chattanooga, and you run into those fans of the opposite team on a fairly regular basis. There's a lot of time today. If you're a Tennessee fan, there's going to be a lot of time to strut, show your orange tail feathers. And if you are a Georgia fan, A, I am so sorry. And B, and more importantly, it's time to hide a little bit. You know, if you see somebody wearing orange, you just duck into a corner. You know, it happens. I have to do it with Mr. Judd all the time. Anytime the Longhorns lose, I gotta avoid him. He doesn't make it easy on me. Mr. Judd of the Mr. Judd Show, here from 11 to noon on Hot News Talk Radio. Arkansas fan, he better hide from me. He better hide from me. Today's the day of revenge. But back to Tennessee and Georgia. This is interesting to me because I was telling you last week that I wasn't sure Joshua Dobbs could really throw the ball down the field. And he ran for 300. He threw for 312 yards and then ran for 118 more. He accounted for 5 touchdowns, and the Vols erased a 21-point deficit. So clearly, the equation says if you're a Tennessee fan, the only thing that you need every Saturday is for the Vols to be down at halftime and not up. Because if they're up, they're going to lose. If they're down, well, you've got a chance. Because that was an amazing game as the Vols beat the Bulldogs 38-31. And Georgia, their national title hopes with that loss all but finished, unless, everybody in the top 15 from here on out just has a catastrophic rest of the season. But Tennessee putting up 14 points in back-to-back quarters, the second and the third. Joshua Dobbs, 25 of 42, 312 yards. He threw 3 touchdowns. That is incredible. But the Georgia fan rant is here because I have friends who love the Bulldogs, and it's the one thing that they always tell me since I have been here. Since I have been here and been watching SEC football, as a Big 12 native, this is fun stuff for me to just watch it from the outside. The Georgia Bulldogs lose the game that they ought not to lose. The game that they should win, they don't win it. They don't win it. It's crazy though. They'll upset anybody. The Bulldogs are really good for beating those teams that they ought to beat on when it comes to being much better than those teams. And if they're playing a really good team, you can always give them a fighting chance to win that one. What you can't expect from them is to say, here's a team that you are clearly more talented than all across the board, but they're still fairly close to you. Georgia's not going to win that game. And historically, at least since I have been here, I've been here for going on 6 years now. Georgia hasn't won that game, and there'll be national title talks around them. They got to bring one back to Athens, and every time I watch them play in games like these, like your typical trap type game, because Tennessee hasn't been playing very well. They've played in a lot of close games, but they haven't showed the mental fortitude of a team that wins the big one. Okay. And this game means a lot to a whole lot of people, and I didn't think Tennessee could win it. And, kudos to them for coming out there and playing with the heart that they seem to lack all of this season, especially in the second half of games. And again, I think the formula is that they were down. Like I was kidding earlier, but only sort of. Part of the formula for Tennessee is that they were losing the game. So Butch Jones doesn't get to clam up and play ultra conservative. You've got to open up the playbook and go deep in there and find out what you could do. The key here for Butch Jones would be to get him to coach this Vols team to play like that all the time. Hey, don't get conservative when you have a lead. Keep opening up the playbook. Keep hitting them. And he doesn't do it. And that's the frustrating thing about him. Incredible recruiter. And he's a smart football guy. Like, I know people want to kill him and say, oh, Butch Jones, he doesn't know anything about football. He can only recruit. Like, you don't get to a place like this if you don't know anything about football. Butch Jones is an intelligent football guy, but he makes boneheaded decisions on Saturdays. And part of it is his desire to not lose the game is greater than his will to win it. He's not going to go out and win. He wants to not lose. But being in a losing situation this Saturday allowed the Volunteers to be able to stay aggressive. It's like you can see what this team is capable of when they stay aggressive for a full 4 quarters of a game. Sure, they might trail early, but they've always got a chance. Well, apply that to when you have a lead. Don't clam up on us, Butch. Jeez. This is Clutch. Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of feeling like just another account number to your financial advisor? Try something refreshingly different. Call Edward Jones Financial Advisor Patrick Neal in Hickson at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Social media, we're on that. Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook, at Hot News Talk Radio on Twitter. Download the TuneIn app and follow us anywhere at any time. AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
This is Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Climbing up the polls, Michigan with an impressive win over Northwestern this past weekend, blanking them 38-0, which is what, another 30-plus victory in which the Wolverines have had a shutout. And I think that people like Jim Harbaugh are making it hard for everyone else. When the Texas Longhorns hired Charlie Strong, I think they wanted something like what's happening in Michigan. I think they wanted a quick turnaround. Very rarely are there quick turnarounds. But that's what they wanted. And it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. Texas A&M beats Mississippi State 30-17. So look down the SEC scoreboard a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I have underestimated A&M this season. I didn't think that they were going to be very good this season, and they have been much more than was advertised. Much more than was advertised. I'm pretty surprised by them. Here's the thing about Georgia. Pardon me, if I sound underprepared, I've been driving all day. I just drove for 6 hours straight, got off the road, I walked in here. So I am highly underprepared, which for people who know me is very uncharacteristic of me. Very, very uncharacteristic in terms of I prep for 2 hours. This show is one. I go over my notes at night, and then in the morning, I go over them one more time the hour before the show and update the stories with any new information that may have come out. And so now I'm here. I feel bad. I feel like I'm stammering like an idiot. I hope I'm not disappointing you all. And I don't want to just rely on, red hot sports takes that just are rehashed constantly and spat out there. And you know what? I know you watch the games and you have the scores of the game. So I'm trying not to just be a scoreboard. Okay. I'm trying not to just go down the games and read stats and read numbers and this, that, and the other thing. Look, it's too much. It's too much. So I'm trying to find interesting things to tell you about. And what that has resulted in is 2 rants, which I was totally not expecting. I think I rant pretty well. The rant skills are high. Okay. And speaking of the rant skills, the Atlanta Falcons, are they good? Here's the thing. They're 5-0, which means that they are doing something right. They're putting themselves in positions to win, and they're winning. But what I don't want is for the Falcons to be... I don't want for the Falcons to be in a position where they can't necessarily deliver on some of the expectations that we've seen early in this season. Like, September doesn't mean anything by itself. I want to see a whole body of work from the Falcons, and I'm pleased with what I've seen. And Julio Jones is such an important factor to this team, as well as the fact that their offensive line is healthy this season, which last season it was overwhelmingly unhealthy, entirely unhealthy. They were starting tight ends at right guard and right tackle. So, they didn't have a whole lot in the way of assistance there. But I am not sure about the Falcons sometimes because they seem to be pulling off a lot of these comeback victories. And the Redskins, they beat the Redskins yesterday, and they got a little help from Kirk Cousins, threw a pick six. Some film study helped Alford set up the game-winning interception, picked off Kirk by studying his three-step drops in film, which is good, but it's this last-second victory situation here. I want to see the Falcons put the beat down on somebody. That's what would convince me really that they were a good team, because they've been playing against weaker teams and just coming on by. Like they're just sliding past. And let me pull up their schedule here to illustrate what I mean. But they're off to an incredibly hot start. But they beat Philadelphia, won that one just by 2. They beat the Giants, who are 3-2 and at the top of the NFC East. But I'm not sure the Giants are a good team either. I'm sure the Giants are a fantastic offense, but the Giants don't defend anything. The New York Football Giants, who have been known for their defense for years and years and years, hate to tell you the news, they don't defend things very well. They beat the Cowboys. No Romo, though. Beat them by 11, so that's fairly handily. They destroyed Houston. They destroyed the Texans, but everyone ought to be destroying the Texans right now. They are terrible. And between Brian Hoyer and Ryan Mallett, I'm not actually sure which one is worse. And then this week they beat the Redskins on a pick six in overtime, a team that I think that they are far better than. I'm a Redskins fan, but I think that the Falcons are way better than the Redskins. Shouldn't have been that close, to be completely honest with you. And I'm just not certain that the Falcons are going to survive this entire season looking as good as they have been. What helps is that they're in a division that doesn't necessarily compete at the highest of levels. The Saints are having their troubles right now. The Buccaneers don't look very good, and only the Panthers are really a tough team in that division besides the Falcons. They play the Saints next week, followed by the Titans, which is not necessarily a guaranteed victory, but they should beat the Titans. They're better than them. Then they play Tampa Bay, San Francisco in San Francisco, which is not a tough team. Like, they've got a slew of easy games here. And what I'm wondering is, when are they going to get tested? I don't think they're going to really get tested this season. They play the 2 games that they play in Carolina, week 14 and week 16 late in the season. Those are going to be their tests. Because everything else here, Tennessee, Tampa Bay, San Francisco, the Colts, the Vikings, Tampa Bay again, Jacksonville, and New Orleans, this isn't tough stuff. And what I'm wondering is, do the Falcons just ride this wave of, we're a good football team, look how well we're playing, or are we prepared for a playoff letdown? Should we be looking at the playoffs and saying we're Super Bowl contenders? And look, anything can happen once you get there. But do you pencil them in for even NFC title contention, given that their schedule is not difficult at all? At all. That is an easy schedule. That is a cupcake schedule. And the only reason why we're all shocked and happy about it is because we expected them to be really, really bad. Because last year they were really, really bad. But we never seem to talk about the injuries that occurred to make them that bad. I was saying it last year. The offensive line for Atlanta is terrible. Their skill positions are basically set. Their defense wasn't very good, but now that Dan Quinn has come in and coached up that defense is flying around. They look fantastic. That's the only way that you get an interception to win the game, is either the other quarterback's really bad and Kirk's not bad. He's not good, but he's not bad. Or your defense is fantastic, and their defense has been fantastic. It's a bend but don't break type of defense, but it'll get the job done. And the Falcons look really good. And I don't want to rain on the parade, but how good are they really? Against the more elite teams in the league, can they hang? Are they going to be able to defend at that level against an Aaron Rodgers? Or anybody else that you might meet in the playoffs, against a Carson Palmer? Are they going to be able to do that against an Eli Manning? It's going to be interesting to see. They've already beaten the Giants, but again, the Giants weren't playing their best football then, and they don't defend a soul. And that defense is terrible, especially against the run. Like, how good are the Falcons really? AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. You want to have Hot News Talk Radio, but you're only listening to AM 1240 in your car. Never fear, the TuneIn Radio app is here. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio on the TuneIn Radio app. Give us a follow and press play. You'll have TuneIn Radio wherever you go. And you'll be able to listen to the David Tulis show from 9 to 11. From 11 to noon, we've got Mr. Judd, my pick'em buddy, and my college football friend. He'll text me on Saturday, usually to mock me, but he can't mock me this week because the Longhorns won. Following him is Russell from 12 to 1 with the Digital Drive. And then you've got me from 1 to 2. Clutch with Keon Rose. And don't forget Tex of Cowboy Up with Tex fame here from 6 to 7. Live and local for you. We're Hot News Talk Radio. Still worried about the Falcons. I'm still worried. But here's something about the Hawks. And you know what? Having your basketball team and your football team with bird-based nicknames, it makes things confusing. Like, I want to say Falcons when I mean Hawks, and I say Hawks when I mean Falcons. It's confusing. And there's so much tradition there. I guess no one's going to do anything about it now, but whatever. The Hawks had their star perimeter defender. I say star because the Hawks don't really have stars. That team isn't built around stars. It's built around the system and moving the ball and being incredibly efficient. But I say star because Thabo Sefolosha, the player in question, extremely important to the success of that team. And he wasn't able to participate in the playoffs last year because a police officer broke his leg. And he was saying that he did nothing to provoke the police officer into breaking his leg. And very recently, that case got cleared in his favor. That, yes, it appears that Sefolosha did not provoke the officer. So now that warrants the case to Sefolosha. What happened? And Sefolosha is going to take it to court. It's going to be a civil case for sure. And it's interesting because I would think that the media would be talking about this. You know, we've got the TV here in the station. It's got Fox News and sometimes CNN, and we see things on the news all the time. And court cases are great for news because they go on for a very long time. There's a lot of information. Things are always being updated and revealed. There's speculation. There's hearsay. There's so many things that can be discussed on a news network, and nobody is talking about this story. It's even got race, which the media loves. It's got police, which the media loves. And we're going to have a police debate here, by the way, on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. A debate on a case that's happened here, right here in Red Bank. And a police officer, there's the whole video has been released of him. He's seen beating a guy up. And we're going to debate whether or not there was a justification in the indictment of that officer. Some of us say yes. Some of us say no. I won't reveal my position. We're going to have a live debate here. It's going to be me and Mr. Judd and Confederate Mike and Mr. Tulis. And we're all going to get in here and fight with our brass knuckles and baseball bats. It's going to be like Gangs of New York. Gangs of Chattanooga, except with words. So none of those things at all. None of those things at all. Well, we're going to have a debate. It's going to be fun. It's going to be at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, right after Clutch is going to be the debate. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. We're going to talk about this. But the police officer in question in New York, in the Cephalosha case, I haven't heard or read anything from him. But I'm just shocked the media is not talking about this. Like, I really am. Because it's not like he was a scrub player on some team that didn't matter. He's a good player on a team that needed him in the playoffs, and he was not able to participate in the playoffs because the officer broke his leg. And nobody seems to want to get to the bottom of this story at all except the people involved in the court case. And I'm like, the media is not doing anything at all about this. This is crazy. This is crazy. It's crazy that that happened. And nobody's talking about it. I've heard more stories about how nobody's talking about it than actually talking about it. I heard it on the Dan Le Batard show and listened to Bill Simmons. He's back making things and doing things, for those of you who know who he is. And they talked about it. It seems like a really interesting thing to talk about, except nobody is talking about it, which I find extremely odd. And I don't know if it's something that you don't want to touch, but the athlete in question is black. The officer beat him up. It's a case that involves an NBA player, someone who is barely recognizable. At least around here, we should be talking about it. Atlanta's right on our doorstep. We're not talking about it at all. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. Make sure to check us out on hotnewstalkradio.com and the TuneIn Radio app. Be back with you guys tomorrow. See you in 24 hours.
Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
We do the best quality work. We have the best customer service, the most competitive prices around.
Cell Surgeon, a painless operation to fix your sick device.
Well, if you have a cheap charger or something that's not really designed for your phone, it can mess with your battery. It can actually fry your phone. So you need to make sure you have a quality product that's going to be designed for your phone.